You're not a damn lifeline for everyone. Stop acting like it's your job to fix everybody's mess. You weren't born to be the emergency contact for people who only call when they're drowning. You're not a lifeline. You're a human being with your own goals, your own problems, and your own life to live. Every time you say yes to someone else's chaos, you're saying no to your own peace. Think about that. You keep showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. Why? That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment dressed as virtue. Your value isn't measured by your availability. Let me say this loud and clear. Being constantly available is not a flex. It's a trap. You've been conditioned to believe that your worth comes from how useful you are to others, that if you're needed, then you matter. Wrong. Your value doesn't come from being at everyone's beck and call. It comes from standing firm in who you are even when you disappoint people, especially when you disappoint people, because the truth is, the more you give without boundaries, the more they expect, and that cycle will never end unless you end it. Resentment is the receipt for people pleasing. You know that heaviness you feel, that irritation that builds up every time you agree to something you didn't want to do. That's resentment, and it's the bill you pay for being too damn useful. You think you're being nice, but what you're really doing is sacrificing your peace to avoid conflict. Newsflash, every time you say yes when you mean no, you're lying to them and to yourself, and those lies pile up until you don't even recognize your own voice anymore. That's the price of pleasing everyone. Stop earning love by overgiving. You can't buy love by overextending yourself. You can't earn loyalty by burning out. And you sure as hell can't build real relationships by being everything for everyone. That's not connection, that's desperation. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that if you give enough, they'll finally love you right. Stop. You don't have to prove your worth through self-sacrifice. The right people won't need you to exhaust yourself to keep them around. They'll respect your boundaries, not test them. No is a full sentence. Use it. No is not rude. It's not cold. It's not selfish. It's powerful, and it's your right. You've got to get comfortable disappointing people who have grown comfortable exploiting you. If you keep saying yes just to be liked or keep the peace, you'll wake up one day full of regret and empty of energy. Say no, not with guilt, not with apology, but with confidence. If someone walks away because you finally chose yourself, let them walk. You just made space for something better. You're not here to be convenient. You're not a tool. You're not a favor machine. You're not here to be the person every time someone drops the ball. You've got dreams. You've got needs. You've got a freaking life to live. Start acting like it. Every time you prioritize someone else's convenience over your own capacity, you reinforce the lie that your time is less valuable. It's not. And the moment you realize that, you'll stop bending over backwards for people who won't even lean forward for you. You deserve reciprocity, not just responsibility. If you're always the one giving, supporting, showing up, and checking in, where's your refill? Where's your care? Where's your return on that emotional investment? Relationships, whether personal or professional, are not one-way streets. And if you're the only one pouring, eventually you'll run dry. Stop being useful to people who are useless when you need them most. Your energy is not unlimited, so stop wasting it on people who only know how to take. You deserve reciprocity, not just responsibility. You're not a damn lifeline for everyone. You've got to stop thinking it's your job to rescue people. You've got to stop acting like you're the only one who can hold things together for everyone else. You are not the emergency response unit for other people's bad decisions. You're not the therapist, the fixer, the wallet, the backup plan. And yet, look at how often you pick up the pieces for everyone, while yours go untouched. You keep showing up when you're exhausted. You keep saying yes when you're overwhelmed. You keep helping people who never help you. And why? Because somewhere along the way you got tricked into believing that being needed means being loved. That's not love. That's dependence. That's exploitation in disguise, and you don't even see it until it's too late. Until you're sitting in your room, tired and bitter, wondering why no one's there for you like you're there for them. I'll tell you why, because you trained them not to be. You taught people that your time doesn't matter, that your needs come last, that your life can be paused anytime they want you to be useful. You don't have to answer every call. You don't have to say yes just because someone's in a crisis. You don't have to keep sacrificing your peace for people who create their own storms and expect you to clean it up. You've got to let people deal with the consequences of their own mess. It's not cold, it's healthy. It's what boundaries look like, and yes, people will get angry when you stop being available. That's normal. People hate losing access to the version of you that allowed them to take without giving. But you've got to stop seeing their disappointment as your responsibility. It's not your job to carry people who refuse to walk on their own. You've been so used to giving, to showing up, to overextending yourself, that stillness feels selfish. But let me tell you, stillness is where you get your power back. Saying "not today" is where you reclaim your energy. Letting someone figure it out without your help is how you stop enabling dysfunction. You can love people and still let them struggle. You can care about people and still say, "That's not my responsibility." You can support people without losing yourself in their chaos. But you've got to be willing to let go of the savior complex. You've got to stop thinking their growth depends on your sacrifice. Here's what happens when you stop being a lifeline. People learn to swim. People start to realize they've been leaning on you instead of standing on their own. And yes, it might get messy. They might fall. But that fall teaches them more than you ever could by cushioning it. And while they're learning, guess what? You finally get to rest. You get to put that energy into yourself. You get to rediscover what it feels like to not be drained by everyone else's problems. You get to stop surviving on fumes because you're finally choosing you, but that choice is uncomfortable. It means stepping back when every part of you wants to step in. It means sitting in the discomfort of watching people struggle. It means tolerating their anger, their guilt trips, their silence. And you do it anyway, because your peace matters more, because your health, your sanity, your life cannot be the collateral damage in someone else's story. You are not a background character in someone else's drama. You are not a recurring role in a show that drains you. You are the main character in your own life, and it's time you start acting like it. You think they won't survive without you? They will. And even if they don't figure it out right away, that's not your responsibility. You've been the net long enough. You've been the cushion. You've been the one who always answers, always gives, always shows up. And it's costing you everything. Your energy is finite. Your time is limited. And the people who truly love you will understand when you stop overgiving. They'll adjust. They'll step up. And the ones who walk away, they were never really there for you. They were there for the version of you that made their life easier at your expense. You were never put on this earth to be a tool for other people. You were never meant to break yourself into pieces so others could feel whole. You were never designed to be a lifeline while drowning yourself. It's not noble. It's not love. It's not healthy. It's time to stop being the go for people who don't go out of their way for you. It's time to stop playing savior in stories that don't belong to you. It's time to stop being the lifeline and start being the priority. Your value isn't measured by your availability somewhere along the line. You started believing that being constantly available was the gold standard of being a good person. That answering every call, responding to every text, showing up at every last-minute event made you reliable, valuable, lovable. Let me ask you this: how's that working for you? How do you feel when you drop everything for someone and they don't even say thank you? How do you feel when your phone lights up and your first thought is dread, not excitement? You've become so conditioned to be available that you've forgotten what your own boundaries sound like, and the truth is, people have learned they don't need to respect your time because you don't. You teach people how to treat you, and you've been teaching them that your time, your energy, your space, they're all up for grabs. That they can interrupt your peace anytime and you'll just take it. You're not the help desk for everyone's emotional emergencies. You're not on Call for people who remember you only when they need something. And yet, you treat your own needs like they're optional. You postpone your plans, cancel your rest, ignore your exhaustion just to be there. For people who wouldn't do the same for you, you've mistaken accessibility for loyalty. You've confused being useful with being loved. But people pleasing is not a personality trait, it's a defense mechanism. It's rooted in fear, fear of being abandoned, rejected, forgotten. So you overcompensate, you overgive, you overextend. And you disappear in the process. Let me be real with you. You're not a better person because you abandon yourself for others. You're just a more exhausted one. And exhaustion is not a badge of honor. You don't win anything for being the most drained, the most available, the most self-sacrificing. That's not love. That's martyrdom. You want to know what real strength looks like. It looks like saying, I'm not available right now, without apologizing. It looks like letting the phone ring and not rushing to justify it. It looks like prioritizing your peace over someone else's convenience, because when you're always available, you send one message loud and clear: my needs can wait. And guess what they do? They keep waiting, and before long, you're living a life built around everyone else's urgency and no room for your own. Start noticing how often you say yes when you mean no. Notice how often you respond immediately just to prove something. Who are you trying to convince, them or yourself? Because the people who truly care about you won't make you prove your value by your availability. Start honoring your time like it matters. Block off space for yourself and treat it like an unmissable appointment. You wouldn't cancel on your boss. You wouldn't ignore your kid's recital. So why do you cancel on your own rest, your own goals, your own damn joy? You've been raised in a culture that glorifies being on all the time. Hustle, grind, show up, be the dependable one. But showing up for everyone else while abandoning yourself isn't loyalty, it's self-neglect. And it'll kill your spirit quietly if you're not careful. You've got to get real clear on one thing. Your availability does not define your value. Your worth isn't tied to how quickly you respond, how much you give, how many things you say yes to. Your worth is built in, it's non-negotiable, and it doesn't require constant proof. So start disappointing the people who expect you to always say yes. Start saying, I'm not available this week, without guilt. Start turning your phone off when you need rest. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them wonder. Let them adjust. Because your job is not to be accessible, your job is to be whole, and wholeness requires space. It requires silence. It requires saying not now to the world so you can finally say yes to yourself. You're not valuable because you're available. You're valuable because you exist. And it's about time you started acting like it. Resentment is the receipt for people pleasing. You want to know where your bitterness is coming from. You want to understand why you're tired, irritated, short-tempered, and emotionally tapped out. It's not because life is unfair, it's because you keep saying yes when everything in your body is screaming no. Every time you agree to something you don't want to do, a tiny piece of you goes missing. Every time you go along just to keep the peace, you abandon your truth. And the cost of that isn't just your time or your energy, it's your identity. That's what resentment is. It's the bill you pay for betraying yourself over and over again. People think people pleasing is about being kind. It's not. It's about fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being rejected, fear of being alone. So you perform. You act agreeable. You say the right thing. You show up even when you're running on empty, and then you sit with that gnawing feeling afterward, wondering why you feel used. Let me tell you something, you are being used. Not always intentionally, but absolutely consistently. Because when you train people that you'll always say yes, they stop asking if it's okay. They stop wondering how you feel. They start expecting. And what once looked like generosity starts looking like a one-way transaction, that quiet anger that simmers inside you, that edge in your voice when someone asks for a small favor, that sigh you let out after every sure I can help. That's not who you are, that's your body reacting to another self-betrayal. Your nervous system knows when you're lying. Even when your mouth smiles, your gut clenches. That's not harmony. That's conflict. You think you're doing the right thing, by being agreeable, but let me ask you this, why does doing the right thing feel so damn heavy? Why does it leave you drained instead of fulfilled? Because it's not actually right, not for you, and you've got to stop calling it kindness when it's actually self-abandonment. You don't owe people a yes just because they asked nicely. You don't owe people access to your time just because they need you. Need is not the same as entitlement, and your boundaries are not up for negotiation. Just because someone has a sad story, you have every right to protect your energy. Every right to say no without an essay. Every right to walk away from a dynamic that's draining the life out of you. And no, that doesn't make you rude. It makes you self-aware. It makes you someone who knows that peace comes with boundaries, not burn out. People will not set your boundaries for you. They will take as much as you allow. And if you keep giving past your limits, they won't notice, but you will. In the form of resentment, in the form of breakdowns, in the form of waking up and feeling like your life is no longer your own. Here's the thing about resentment, it doesn't go away with more giving. It doesn't disappear because you did one more favor or gave one more sacrifice. It builds, it stacks, it turns you into someone you don't even recognize. And if you're not careful, it will turn into rage, into withdrawal, into depression. Because that's what happens when you stuff your truth down too long. You were not put here to be agreeable. You were not born to make everyone else comfortable while you live in discomfort. You were not designed to be liked at the cost of your own life. And if your people pleasing is making you resentful, then it's not working, not for them, and definitely not for you. Start paying attention to that resentment. It's not a problem to fix, it's a signal to follow. It's your body saying, hey, this isn't aligned, this doesn't feel safe, this isn't fair. And when you listen to that voice, that resentment begins to lift, because you're finally being honest. Honest people are not always liked, but they are free. And freedom feels a hell of a lot better than fake approval, because no compliment is worth sacrificing your sanity, no friendship is worth staying small, no relationship is worth silencing your needs to keep the other person happy. You teach people how to treat you. If you want them to respect your boundaries, you have to show them what they are. If you want them to stop taking advantage, you have to stop offering yourself up on a silver platter. If you want the resentment to end, the self-abandonment has to end first. The only cure for people pleasing is truth. And truth starts when you look in the mirror and say, I'm done lying. I'm done pretending. I'm done saying yes when I mean no. Because the version of me that keeps everyone happy is the version that keeps me miserable. Stop earning love by overgiving. Let's cut to the truth. Love that has to be earned through overgiving is not love. It's performance, it's manipulation, it's a transactional exchange that looks like connection but feels like anxiety. And yet, this is what so many of us were conditioned to do, earn our worth by how much we give. You bend over backwards. You offer your time, your money, your attention, your energy, not because you're feeling generous, but because you're afraid that if you stop, they'll leave. And that fear keeps you locked in a loop of giving more than you have just to keep people around who should have valued you in the first place. Let me be blunt. Real love doesn't demand that you drain yourself to deserve it. If you're exhausted all the time in your relationships, it's not because you're doing too much, it's because you're doing too much for the wrong reasons. You're not nurturing connection. You're feeding fear you learned somewhere, maybe in childhood, that being useful made you lovable. You were praised for being the good one, the helper, the one who didn't need much and always gave more. That pattern didn't just fade, you carried it into adulthood and started repeating it in every relationship that followed. You want to be chosen, so you give. You want to be needed, so you overextend. You want to be safe, so you prove your worth by how much you do. But here's the problem: when you teach people that love is earned through effort, they start expecting that effort as a baseline. And they stop giving back. You become the one who's always initiating, always adjusting, always holding the emotional weight. And they get comfortable. Why wouldn't they? You're doing all the work. You're emotionally investing for two, and somehow convincing yourself that this is just what strong people do, but it's not strength. It's survival mode. It's trying to control how people feel about you by being indispensable. And that's not love, it's fear-based attachment. You're giving so much because deep down, you're scared you're not enough without the giving. Let me tell you something that might sting. If someone only stays because of what you do for them, they don't love you. They love what you do, and the moment you stop performing, their interest fades. Not because you did something wrong, but because you were never truly seen to begin with. You want to know who really values you. It's the ones who stay when you have nothing to offer but your presence. The ones who don't need you to show up with solutions, gifts, emotional labor, or unshakable positivity. The ones who can sit in the quiet with you and still feel connected. That's real, that's love, that's safe. You are allowed to exist without performing. You are allowed to be in a relationship where you don't have to earn your place every damn day. You are allowed to say, I need to, not just give. Not just hold space, not just be the strong one. You get to have needs and still be loved, and if that sounds foreign, it means you've been living in relationships where your value was conditional, where love was tied to your output. And you've got to be willing to burn that belief system to the ground if you ever want to feel peace in your relationships. Again, stop asking, how can I make them love me? And start asking, why do I think I have to perform to be loved? Because that's the real question. That's the root of the overgiving, and until you heal that part of you, you'll keep overextending and calling it love. You're not a vending machine. You're not a life raft. You're not an emotional service provider. You're a human being. You have needs. You have limits. You have a right to relationships that nourish you, not just ones you pour into while running on empty. So if you feel like you're giving more than you're getting, stop. Don't negotiate. Don't explain. Just stop and see what happens. Who shows up when you stop carrying all the weight? Who disappears when you stop proving your worth? That's your answer the people meant, for you will never require you to exhaust yourself to stay connected. They'll meet you where you are. They'll match your energy. They'll love you in your rest, not just in your performance. You don't have to earn real love. You just have to stop giving it all away to people who don't deserve it. Silence is your boundary. When words no longer work, there comes a point when talking becomes pointless. When you've explained yourself, justified your limits, poured your heart out, and all you get in return is more boundary, pushing, more dismissing, more guilt, tripping, that's when you stop using words. That's when silence becomes your boundary. You don't owe everyone an explanation for protecting your peace. You don't have to debate your limits. You don't have to keep showing up to conversations that go nowhere. There is a power in silence that people don't talk about. It's not weakness. It's control. The loudest message you'll ever send is not with your voice, but with your absence. When you stop engaging, when you stop responding, when you stop making yourself emotionally available to people who refuse to respect you, that's when everything shifts. That's when your silence speaks louder than your begging ever could see. When you keep trying to explain your boundaries to people who clearly don't care, you're not asserting your power, you're giving it away. You're entering a debate that was never meant to have a winner. You're wasting your energy convincing someone who benefits from not understanding you. If they cared, you wouldn't have to keep repeating yourself. If they respected you, the first boundary would have been enough. But the moment you realize they hear you, they just don't want to listen. That's when you go quiet. Not because you're afraid, but because you're done performing. Clarity for the unwilling silence is uncomfortable. And that's exactly why it works. Because people are used to your explanations. They're used to your emotional labor. They're used to you making it easy for them to keep disrespecting you. But silence, that's unfamiliar. That makes them sit in their own behavior without your commentary. You've got to stop confusing being vocal with being powerful. You've said enough. You've done enough. Now let your silence carry the weight of what words couldn't fix. Let it be the full stop at the end of the sentence they never took seriously. This is about reclaiming your energy, about walking away from dynamics that thrive off your participation, because not all conversations are worth your breath. Some people only understand distance. Some boundaries are best drawn in space, not sound. So if you're constantly drained by explaining yourself, stop. You're not a lecturer. You're not a customer service line for your own emotional boundaries. If they don't get it, that's not your problem to solve. That's their maturity gap to face. People will call you cold when you go quiet. They'll call you selfish, dramatic, overreacting, and you've got to let them. Because what they're really saying is, I miss the version of you that tolerated my crap. And guess what? That version of you is gone. She's unavailable. Permanently. Silence is not passive. It's not retreat. It's not defeat. It's strategy. It's choosing peace over conflict, clarity over chaos, energy over emotional exhaustion. It's you finally understanding that not every battle deserves your voice. You've taught people how to expect noise from you, explaining, checking in, justifying, responding. So when you stop giving that noise, they feel the silence like an earthquake. That's when you know your boundary is working. That's when you know they finally felt the shift. You don't need to yell. You don't need to cry. You don't need to beg them to get it. You just need to stop showing up to the circus. Remove your attention. Detach your emotional investment. Let the silence be the mirror. Let them sit with themselves without you rushing in to fix their reflection, because at the end of the day, your silence isn't rejection, it's protection. It's you drawing the line without lifting a finger. It's you saying, I am done explaining what respect should look like. And when words fail, silence becomes your strongest, most unapologetic form of self-respect. Being needed is not the same as being loved. Let's get something straight. Just because someone needs you doesn't mean they love you. It means you serve a function. It means you make their life easier. It means they rely on you. But that's not love. That's convenience. And if you confuse the two, you will spend your entire life being used and calling it connection. You've built your identity around being irreplaceable. The one who always shows up, the one who fixes everything, the one who holds it all together. And sure, it feels good until it doesn't. Until you're tired, until you're empty, until you realize they're not around when you fall apart. That constant urge to be needed. That's not power, that's fear. It's the fear of being left, the fear of being irrelevant, the fear that if you're not essential, you're invisible, and so you overfunction. You stay useful. You say yes when you mean no, just to keep your seat at the table. But let me ask you something. What kind of love disappears the second you stop serving a role? What kind of connection evaporates the moment you draw a boundary? What kind of relationship makes your exhaustion the cost of your inclusion? That's not love. That's dependency dressed up as intimacy. You are not the solution to someone else's chaos. You are not the answer to everyone's needs. You are a human being, not a support system. And the second you stop being needed, if they walk, that tells you everything. That was never love. That was conditional access based on your usefulness. Love sees you, not just your service. Love stays when you're quiet, when you're unavailable, when you have nothing to give. Love holds space for your humanness. It doesn't demand performance. It doesn't reward burnout. And it sure as hell doesn't punish rest. You've got to stop measuring your value by how much you carry. Just because they lean on you doesn't mean they appreciate you. Just because they depend on you doesn't mean they respect you. There are people who will drain you and call it closeness until the moment you need them. Being needed feeds your ego, but being loved feeds your soul. One will make you feel important. The other will make you feel safe. And if you're used to being needed more than being loved, you will confuse the two. You will cling to relationships that exhaust you, thinking they're proof that you matter. This is where you take your power back. When someone needs you, ask yourself, would they still choose me if I stopped solving? Would they still call if I stopped saving? Would they still show up if I needed something from them instead of doing something for them? You want to know the truth. Sometimes people don't want to love you, they want to use you. And the more capable you are, the more they'll lean, not out of admiration, but out of habit. And if you keep showing up without boundaries, they'll keep taking without guilt. That's why you feel so damn tired. Because what you thought was closeness is just imbalance. What you thought was loyalty is just you carrying the emotional labor of two people. What you thought was love is just your fear of being unnecessary playing dress up. Stop asking yourself, what do they need from me? And start asking, what do I need in this relationship? Because if your needs never get met, if your voice always gets drowned out, if your peace always gets compromised, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a service role. Let them be disappointed. Let them figure it out on their own. Let them learn how to show up for you. Because if someone can't love you without needing something from you, they don't love you. They love the version of you that gives and gives until there's nothing left, and you were never born to be a crutch. You were born to be seen, to be chosen without having to prove yourself, to be loved even when you're not needed. And that starts the moment you stop mistaking your usefulness for your worth. The more you do, the less they respect it. Let's talk about the brutal truth no one wants to admit. The more you do for people, the less they value it. The more you rescue, the more they expect. The more you bend, the more they push. What started as generosity turns into entitlement. And before you know it, your kindness has been converted into obligation. At first, it feels good to help. You feel needed, appreciated, important, but then it slowly turns. You start noticing they don't say thank you anymore. They don't ask, they assume. They don't appreciate, they expect. And when you finally stop or slow down, they get mad. Not because you failed them, but because you stopped feeding their comfort. Why does this happen? Because people normalize what they're repeatedly given. When you show up every time they snap their fingers, they stop seeing it as help and start seeing it as your job. Your effort becomes background noise, your sacrifices become invisible, and your value, it gets reduced to how well you perform. You're not the problem. Your overgiving is. You've trained them unintentionally to believe that your time, your energy, your support are on tap. And when you teach people that your boundaries are flexible, they stop treating them like they exist at all. You think being the one who does everything will earn you love. It won't. It will earn you resentment. Because people don't respect the things they don't have to work for, they don't value what's always available, and they sure as hell don't see strength in someone who refuses to say enough. You've got to understand, when you overdo, you shrink your own value. You set the bar so high for yourself that anything less than self-sacrifice feels like failure to them and to you. And once that becomes the norm, anything that looks like rest, resistance, or saying no becomes betrayal in their eyes. They won't say it out loud, but your burnout is convenient. It keeps them safe from their own responsibility. Your exhaustion is the cushion for their laziness. Your yes makes it easier for them to say no. And if you stop, they're forced to show up, grow up, and that's uncomfortable. The irony is, the more you do, the less they feel they need to. You're not just enabling them, you're disabling yourself. You're building a relationship dynamic where their comfort is your burden. Their success is your effort. Their peace is your chaos, and that is not healthy. That is not love. That is a trap, and here's the kicker: they will notice when you stop. Not with gratitude, but with resistance. Suddenly, you're changing. You're distant. You're not who you used to be. And they'll say that because who you used to be was convenient, predictable, self-sacrificing, but who you are becoming, that version threatens their comfort. You were not born to be everyone's fallback plan. You were not put here to make life easier for people who refuse to grow. The more you overfunction, the more they underfunction. The more you show up for them, the more they disappear when it's your turn. That is the pattern, and it's your job to break it. Respect doesn't come from how much you give. It comes from how clearly you define what you won't give. Boundaries earn more respect than burnout ever will. Saying no gets more attention than saying yes 100 times. Showing people you have limits reminds them you are not here to be used, you are here to be valued. Stop thinking you have to prove your worth through output. You don't. Your value is not in how much you do. It's in who you are when you stop doing. And if they can't handle that version of you, the one who rests, the one who sets boundaries, the one who finally says not today, they were never for you in the first place. People respect what they have to earn. People value what they're not entitled to. And if you keep handing yourself away on a silver platter, don't be surprised when they treat you like you're disposable. You taught them how to see you. Now you teach them how to receive you by doing less, not more, because when you finally stop showing up for everyone else at the expense of yourself, you won't lose people. You'll lose leeches. You'll lose freeloaders. You'll lose those who only stayed because you made life easy for them. And what you gain? Peace, clarity, and a damn good reminder that your worth was never measured by how much you did. It was measured by what you stopped tolerating. You are not here to be the fixer, the filler, the backup plan, or the emotional first responder for people who would never show up that way for you. You're not a lifeline. You're not a resource. You are a whole person with needs, with limits, with a soul that deserves to rest without guilt. The truth is, you've spent too long confusing your usefulness with your worth. You've built an identity around being needed and called it love. You've let people pull from your energy like it's endless and called it loyalty. You've tolerated disrespect in exchange for crumbs of appreciation and called it connection. But all of that ends now, because the moment you realize you don't have to be useful to be valued, you become dangerous. You stop showing up out of obligation. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop explaining your silence. And most importantly, you stop letting people define your worth by what you do for them. You start reclaiming your time. You start saying no without guilt. You start being unavailable for one-sided relationships, for unspoken expectations, for emotional manipulation disguised as need. You stop overfunctioning, overgiving, over-explaining. You stop being the hero in stories where no one would rescue you back. And when you do that, yes, some people will leave. Let them. Let the silence filter out who was only sticking around because you were useful. What remains will be the ones who see you, not just your utility. The ones who respect your boundaries, the ones who value your presence, not just your performance. This is your permission to stop carrying what isn't yours, to stop managing the emotions of grown adults, to stop auditioning for love that should have been freely given. This is your reminder. You don't have to prove your worth through exhaustion. So stop being useful to everyone and start being honest with yourself. Because you deserve to be loved, respected, and chosen, not because you make everyone's life easier, but because you finally chose yourself. And that choice, that's where your real power begins.